All right. Next, what we want to do is, I'm just going to create some project. Okay, before we do anything, Mansa, you had a question. Go ahead, ask the question. What were you asking?
We are recording actually. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, don't mention the company's names or whatever, but just tell me the requirement.
Don't need to share my screen. Yeah.
What is that?
Do I need to share my screen or no need?
Yeah, I think you should share your screen, but let me make you the presenter. Hold on.
Probably you want to stop recording for me?
I have started recording.
No, stop recording.
Yeah, it's better.
Are you going to share your company's code?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, in general, I would not want that to happen. So I don't want anyone to share their company code because that will be not fair. But what I want you to, okay, tell me what is your requirement? What's your requirement? You want to have on the Jenkins file, you want to have, first of all, you cannot have a drop-down kind of a choice. And you, unless and until you install a plugin, you have no way to say, I want this also, and this also. Okay. If you have a requirement where you want to choose multiple, my usual ways have multiple checkbox. So you'll have X, you'll have Y, you'll have Z, and you'll have A. So people are able to come check mark. And then in your code, you check which ones are Boolean true, check mark true, and then you move forward and write your logic from there. So what is, don't tell me the solution that you have, tell me the problem that you have. What is the problem? Is this your problem?
Yes, Samir. I designed the Jenkins file with choice parameters, the drop-down parameters.
Choice is the drop-down, right?
Yes.
The choice will not allow you to select more. Is it allowing you to select more than one?
No, it's not allowing. I'm thinking like, can we group it? I mean, can we variabilize it like that? If we mention like all microservices as a variable, can we keep that all microservices as one choice in the dropdown?
You can. Why not?
Then we should define all those microservices in that variable, right? As
you will have to.
parameter.
So what you will have is, so let's talk a little bit about it, right? So your choice, let's take very simple thing, okay? You have all, you have SVC A, SVC B, SVC C. So I'm assuming you want to build either A, B, or C, or you want to build all, okay? Now,
Yes.
if this is the problem statement, what you will have to have is you'll have to have def all equals to, you'll have to define a list here. Okay, now then you're going to check what is the value of the param. If I'm writing pseudocode over, okay, this is not the real code. If param x, whatever the choice is equals to all, then you should be using this from here. If not, you'll probably use whatever the value comes from here. Okay. And if that is true, now what you'll do is you'll loop through this all dot each, and then you'll invoke each of the service build separately. Well, you don't need 3 here. You just need 1 because you're going in the loop. So that's how you'll do it. Now the question will come, do you want to make this parallel? Do you want to run service A, service B, service C parallelly, or do you want to run them sequentially? Here, you don't need parallel?
No.
Okay, if you don't need parallel, then this should take care of it for you. So what you will do is, I would usually design it in a way that for each of this service A, service B, service C, I would have a Jenkins job. So service A job, service B job, service C job, And this job that you have, I would call it as an aggregator job. And the responsibility of the aggregator job would just be to invoke these jobs. So it either just invokes A or invokes A, B, C based on all. Okay. There are plugins available which allows you to even select check marks inside a drop down. Okay.
Yeah, I think the extended choice plugin is there.
Yeah. But if you, I usually like to keep the UI as simple as possible without complicating it, because I feel when you do a drop down and when you have to check, it's a little complicated process, right? First of all, if the requirement is anyone or all, understand this requirement, okay? First is any one or all. The second requirement could be any combination. That means they can do A and B also. They can do just A. They can do B and C. They can do A, B, C. If second one is your requirement, then you cannot, this is not the solution that I gave you. I'll have to give you a different solution. So what is your requirement?
That is not the requirement. Yeah.
Sorry?
That is not the requirement. The second one is not the requirement.
Okay. But if second one was the requirement and you want to keep dynamism, so I usually, when I think of a solutioning, right, I always think of, okay, people are asking me this, can I do something more to give them what they're asking? And if they need something more in the future, as in terms of flexibility, they would get that also. So what I would usually do is, instead of having a drop down, I would have checkboxes. So I'll have a checkbox called all. I'll have a checkbox called service A. I'll have a checkbox called service B. I'll have a checkbox called service C. If in my logic in the code, if they select all, I'm not going to check any one of those. As soon as they select all, that means it's all. Irrespective, they select this or not, it doesn't really matter to me. Okay. But if they do not select all, I would honor everything else that they select. So they can, so the combination that they can build service A and service C also, it's taken care of. That is the second requirement. And in your requirement that they can only do one, yes, they can just select one, do a build. It'll just do one. You want all, select all. Your first requirement is taken care of. But with this kind of a design, you're not only solving for the requirement, what they asked, you're also giving them an extension that you can do what you're asking for, but you can do more than that. You get my point?
Change in the code also, right, Samir, with this checkbox.
Oh, of course, of course. So your code will have to be reading from checkboxes and then making a decision. Okay. In my view, I like the design better unless and until there's a hard requirement which says they should never be able to run service A and service B. They can only run service A or service B or service C or all. But if they don't have a requirement that, oh, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if they want to do service A and service B, it's great. If that feature is there, great. We don't have that requirement, but in future, we might need it. Then writing your code to adapt to this makes a lot more sense, because that, how do I tell you? I don't know how to articulate it. When I look at solutioning, I always look at a solutioning that I write one code and that same code would be able to expand in the future. I will never restrict myself to what people have asked for. I would give them what they've asked for, but I would write code in a way that I'll be able to extend it for the future. That's how I always design my systems. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of Groovy code, right? And as soon as I have sent you that Groovy collections, if you're not, if
yes.
I remember right,
yes.
that should be good enough for you to start writing code for this. And if you still have trouble, reach out to me directly and we'll
yeah, sure.
try to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember one thing, I'm not going to decorate things and bring it to you on the table and tell you, here is a spoon, start eating it, right? That'll be wrong on my part to do it. I'm going to give you solutioning. You have to go spend some time, figure it out. And even if you're not able to do it, then I'll come and probably help you.
Yeah, sure, Samir. I will check with that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that you think we should, anybody we should talk about today? Jyoti, are you feeling okay to continue for some more time, or do you think we
Yes,
should
Samir.
wrap up?
Oh, yes, Samir. Feeling well.
Okay. From everything that we've done in the past, does anybody have any questions? I know Rumana had to demo. Rumana, do you want to demo your stuff?
Sure, Samir. Yeah.
Okay, try to see if you're able to share your screen.
God, you have to give me permission.
You should have permission. Go check
While
it
the
out.
other participant is, you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. Who's
No, try
sharing?
again. Try again.
Okay. 1 second.
Are you sharing, Rumana? Okay, there you go.
Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go to my. So the requirement was to bring in the Jenkins worker nodes on demand instead of manually creating them in the AWS, right? And drop them off on demand, bring the worker nodes and drop them off if they are not in use. That was the requirement, right, Sami, for auto scaling?
Mm-hmm.
So what we saw in your, what you showed us is to, 1 second. Right now I don't have anything except master, I believe. So
Did anybody else attempt this, or is it just Rumana who attempted it?
I did, Samir.
It worked for you, Sojourner?
No, actually, AMI ID is not taking for me. It's showing error.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I did it in AWS UI.
Oh, AWS UI is fine. It worked for you in AWS UI?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, because even Rumana has not done it in Terraform yet.
Not in Terraform. Directly, I created autoscale. What's that?
Auto scaling group.
Yeah, autoscaling group, and I did it. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. And you didn't use any of the Jenkins plugin that Rumana is using?
That plugin also I tried, but AMI of the instance, that AMI ID is not taking. It's showing error for me.
Okay, let's see what.
Yeah, while Rumana is
Rumana-
doing, I'll tell where did I
Okay.
go wrong.
okay. Yeah, yeah, I would love to know if there are other solutions, if you have tried something more, Virginia, if you can demo. So all I had to do is install the plugin, which I can always make it part of plugin.yaml file as part of Terraform, right?
Yeah.
I brought in this plugin, which is, let me show you, it's already installed. So it's called Amazon EC2. So this is what I had to bring in, right?
So
And
can
then
you do one thing? Can you get the name of that plugin and put it up into the plugin.yaml file while you're doing it, or just put it in the notepad for now?
Can I just share this link? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can share it, but otherwise, if you want to just put it in notepad and then put it up in plugin.yaml later.
Yeah, 1 second.
I think it's EC2.
Where is that? This one, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
this one. It has version in it. Where is it?
Okay.
So I brought that plugin, and as soon as I bring in that plugin, this is what will show up, manage nodes. If you go in here, manage nodes and clouds. Okay, so when we did the manual setup for worker node, this is where we went, right? New node, and we brought in the slave. I mean, we did a configuration for slave node or worker node. Now, as soon as I have that plugin in, it gives me an option to, yeah, there'll be a drop down where I can select EC2, AWS EC2. So as soon as I select that, because I have it already configured, I'll just show the configuration that I did. Just give the name, right? And here, instead of giving, so EC2 AWS credential, there are options. this is not, I didn't go it this way where you would give AWS credential because you are giving access to entire AWS, right? So as I was remembering your surface of attack, limit surface of attack. Instead, what I had to do, create a role and attach it to the instance. So if I go here, IAM. Yeah, and again, most of these instructions are there in that documentation that I shared for that EC2 plugin, Samir, and everyone. So this is the role I created, which will, and this is the policy name, Amazon EC2 full access. So Jenkins will have full access to this EC2 instance, which this is the role that I have created, which I'm going to attach with
Can you expand? Can you expand? Can you click on that plus sign? And go to JSON. You see the JSON in there.
Where is it? Yes.
Okay, so this is what you brought in, right?
This is what I brought in.
This is the policy.
Policy, that's right.
Okay.
So if I go
back. While you're here, I would want to add something just for the clarity of everyone. IAM is a very important service, right? In IAM, you would look at policies, you look at roles, you look at users, you look at groups. Primarily, those are the four primary things that you'll see. It's important to just understand, just because Romana has come here, just to understand, right? Go to the top of it, Romana.
I tried in this way also, giving credentials this way also, but it didn't work. So okay. I gave other way, that private, private key, adding private key also. I did both the ways.
I think you'll have to use the public key there is what I'm thinking. Well, private key, that is right, because you're trying to
private key, private instance private key.
Yeah.
We still have to do that, provide that. So after creating, okay to continue.
Before you move, let me finish this here. So what are policies, what are roles, what are users, what are groups, right? Does everybody understand? Like, what is a policy? What is the difference between a policy and a role?
Can attach any number of policies to a role.
Okay, and what is a role?
That means we can allow a user or a group members to just assigning permissions.
Okay, so let me give some definition over here. There are two critical pieces that we should understand. One is called authentication, and the other one is called authorization. Can somebody tell me what's the difference between authentication and authorization? Just make an attempt.
Authentication is allowing a user to access the system. Authorization means after accessing the system, the permissions which you have to do certain action, perform certain actions are.
Correct. That is spot on. Authentication is basically letting you come inside the system. So if you have a zero surface of attack, after somebody logs into your system, they can technically do nothing. For example, when you create an IAM user for the first time, you do not attach any policies, any roles to it. The only thing that they can actually do, because by default, it gives you a change user or change password policy. So the user can only change password. They can do nothing. They cannot see EC2 instance. They cannot start EC2 instance. They cannot look at IAM. They can look at nothing technically. They have zero surface of attack. Okay. Now, after they get into the system, you want to let them do something, then that is where comes the responsibility of roles. And in AWS, you could have more than one role, right? So just so that you don't have to write big JSON documents for a single role, what they do is they say you can create multiple policies and attach those multiple policies to your role so that managing the code and looking at it becomes a little simpler. Okay, that's the whole picture about what is a role and what are policies. You can attach more than one policy to a role. Now, what is a user? User is somebody which is basically to do about authentication, right? And now you can attach roles to the user. Somebody has put me on speakerphone, looks like. All right. What are groups then? We talked about users, we talked about roles, we talked about policies. We said roles could be assigned to a user. Policies can be assigned to roles. What are groups?
collection of people, users.
Yeah, I mean, instead of looking at as collection of users, I would just want to change the paradigm a little bit and say, you want to have defined business domains. You could create business domain groups and you can add users to those groups. So what it means is, if you want to give certain roles and policies to a group, for example, there is an admin group, you want to give them admin permission. There's a sales group, you want to just give them certain policies that sales guys need. And now as soon as you add a user to that group, you don't have to do anything extra for that user, unless and until you want to give some permission, some roles to the user which the group does not have. So basically creating buckets wherein you could just put users and be rest assured that they will only get permissions what the group has. Okay, Jyoti, you probably were trying to say the same, but I'm just trying to change the paradigm, right?
Yes, Samir.
Yep. All right, Romana, you can go forward now. At least we covered up these things here.
Thank you, Samir. So after creating that role, I go to my master instance. Sorry, I should have gone to EC2. Master instance, which we have provisioned via Terraform, that you gave us code, Samir.
Yes.
So I go there and I say attach this instance.
Attach the role, right?
Sorry, yes. Yes, thank you. So modify IAM and select that one. Jenkins access that I had created. So once I'm done with that, what I don't have to provide.
Question to you. Do you have to attach that role to the master or to that EC2, the other instance, the worker instance? Because you want the worker instance to have access to, I understand.
No.
You want the master instance to be able to create those EC2 instances. That's why you're attaching the role.
Yes.
Master.
So that worker instance that we are getting through Terraform, right? We don't need it for this auto scaling thing. That is there just because I ran it. I could as well stop that instance, and this setup will bring in more worker nodes.
Okay.
So once I have that role, I don't have to do anything here. Rather, if I say use EC2 instance profile to obtain credentials, it will pull in that role and will give necessary access.
Good.
Right. And after that, I have to, this is where I was going wrong. This is where I was not putting my mind properly. So the Terraform script brings in, the key pair, which has the public key from my host, right? Laptop.
Correct. Obviously, that's a public key because we are using
I
IDR
was,
as a pub.
Yes, I was not putting my key pair. This is what we get when we run that Terraform script. Yeah. When we were doing the worker node manually, we had the worker node. We manually logged in via using public IP. We gave we updated the authorized key to have the public key from master, right? So that piece, I was not putting my mind there. So I had to create this master key here, create pair, bring in give the private key from the master. So I created. After this, I was able to get past that error that I was telling you, right? You remember the fingerprint thing?
Yeah, no, I understand. But what I want to understand is, what was the need for creating this key pair? Because you'll still have a private key in your local only.
In my local, which local?
So when you do this create key pair, right? It will download the key pair for you. AWS never keeps the private key.
I did it slightly differently. So, well.
So what did you do is my question.
Again, there might be different ways which I have not explored. I went into master, right? I logged into master and I, if there is there's no key available, we run that SSH keygen something, then we'll get both public and private. I took the private and private key and yeah, and I say create pair, given the name and I saved it locally in my machine, that private key, which I will show you. Where is it? I don't know if you can see my other, can you see my screen?
No.
The SSH folder?
No.
Yeah. In my laptop, in my SSH folder, I just saved that private key in a different folder and I imported that basically. I did the import. Yes, I remember that now. I did an import. I imported that key, right? I'll tell you, so when I go here,
Okay,
I will,
let me ask this question in a different way.
Mhm.
So your private key is on the EC2 instance, not on your machine, because your EC2 instance needs to connect to this new EC2 instance to create it. Is that what you're trying to say? So if you go to your EC2 instance,
Mhm.
you actually did SSH keygen on your EC2 instance, generated the private and public key, and then
Correct.
use that public key of your EC2 instance, not of your local,
Not of my local, of course. Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
is everybody understanding?
Public or private key?
So let me share for a second, Romana, because I think there's a confusion here. Let me clarify it.
Should I stop?
Yeah, stop it for a second. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
So when we go to AWS and we create a EC2 instance, we attach a public key to it. Okay. We attach a public key to it, the key that is there in AWS. And when we either we tell it that we already have the key, or it allows you to generate the key while creating the EC2 instance. And if we ask it to generate the key, you'll remember that it downloads the key and you have to keep it on your system. This is your system. The private key or .pem file is on your system, correct?
Yes.
And this is the public key. This public key will be there in that authorized keys folder on the EC2 instance. Agreed? Now what we want is we want this EC2 instance to take control and create brand new EC2 instances.
Right.
What does this imply to you? It implies to you that this guy will have a public key and the private key is not this guy. Yes, you can copy this private key and put it up over here in the SSH folder. What Rumana could have easily done that. She could have taken this private key and put it up over here. And I think that would have been a bad idea to do it, because then you're proliferating your private keys across EC2 instances. So instead of that, what she did was she went to EC2 instance, ran SSH keygen on the EC2 instance, generated the private key, and from that private key or using that public key, she created a key on AWS, right? And now when she went to master, she will have to use this private key to when she's creating the credential in Jenkins. Romana, correct me if I'm saying something wrong here.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so the key to it is she was always using thinking this is the private key, but the fact is EC2 has to have a private key because now EC2 instance is connecting to other EC2 instance. So there has to be some talking between those two.
And we did that manually, right? When we were setting up the worker node,
right?
We generated the key in master, and then we took the public key of master and we updated the authorized key of worker. We did all that manually, right?
Yes.
So that's the same thing that we are bringing in here, except we have to do it ahead in time because these are slaves are getting generated on demand, right?
Right. So go ahead, share your screen, Romana.
Can you see it?
Yes.
So after that, select the appropriate region from whatever you are working in your AWS. Mine is East 1. And then this is the same one where this is nothing but
you're sharing your .ssh folder now.
Huh?
I think you're sharing. If you have two screens, you're sharing a different screen.
Oh. How do I switch? How do I switch to a different one? Let me just pull it here. Can you now?
Yeah.
Okay. So Yeah, you have to select your correct region, right? And after that, you have to give your master's private key, master's private key, which we already had from our previous session, right? When we were doing manually. And then this is the section, just keep the name, description, it could be anything, AMI Jenkins worker, and AMI ID, depending on, we are using Linux, right? So I just pull this AMI ID from the master instance. That is the AMI or the machine image that I'm going to use.
Saujanya should have questions around here.
Yeah,
Saujanya.
Romana, can you click on check AMI? Because this ID didn't work for me. Oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah, did you pull it from your master? If you go to master instance.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I took from there. Yeah.
You should not
Let me-
potentially use the AMI which we have created in Terraform, okay? Because, oh yeah, you could use it because we are installing everything on top of it. We've not created a golden image at the moment. So this should be the same one, Rumana, what is there in Terraform.
Okay.
So, Saujanya, were you using the same one which is there in Terraform?
Yes. The same thing, yeah. OCO something, yeah, something like this.
Okay.
Maybe because of the credentials, I don't know. I'll check again.
Sure. All right, go down.
So basically, I'm saying what all is required configuration for my worker node, right? I'm giving a name. I'm saying use this image, AMI image, and then.
So we don't have to do AMI owners, everything?
No, I didn't do all of that. Nothing.
Oh, okay.
I kept it minimal. And select the instance type. I selected T2 micro, which is what we have for our master as well, right? And then select the security group for your worker. And since we already had provisioned security group for worker, I just used that one, a security group ID for that. And give the home directory for your worker node because it's a Linux system. This is a standard one, home EC2 user, and user will be EC2 user. What is the AMI type? It's Unix, not Mac, not Windows, right? And then remote SSH port is 22. All basically configuration for your worker node. And if you label it, you can use this just for way to send, right? If, yeah. And here I'm setting, this was by default 30 minutes. I have set it to 5 minutes just for the demo purpose to show that when the worker node gets created on demand and if it goes idle for 5 minutes, it gets terminated automatically after 5 minutes. I'll just reduce it to 2 so that we don't have to wait for 5 minutes. Right, in the advanced section, what I did, Samir, I took the user data from your Terraform script for the worker node, so that we can have Docker, Maven, everything except Jenkins.
Good. Correct.
And I have set the executors to 2 here. And subnet ID, I went to the, this is to make sure, sorry about that. This is to make sure that both my master and worker, they're on the same network. So I got the subnet ID from my master instance.
Can you click on that little question on top?
Yes.
There, it's subnet ID. So I believe you should be able to put a comma separated list of subnet IDs to launch into. Specify one or more subnet IDs separated by spaces, comma, or semicolon. So if you want to do multi-AZ, you would want to add more than one. So in the VPC, in our VPC, right, wherever the subnet belongs, I talked to you about VPCs last time, isn't it? Or I didn't talk? Did I talk about VPCs and subnetworks before?
Yes, Samir.
Okay. Do you still remember it, or do you want me to give you a refresher about availability zones? Roman, I'm not saying you did something wrong. What I'm asking is.
I think I'll benefit from that.
Okay, so let me share for a second if you want me to talk about it.
I stopped sharing.
Sure. So I don't remember talking about VPCs in depth, but if I did, that's great. So on AWS, right, when you come, your segmentation of your network can be done using VPC. VPC is virtual private cloud. Okay, that's your own. Although there are many other customers who will be sitting in the same tenancy, there's multi-tenancy basically. You can create a segmentation of a network using VPC. And when it comes to VPC, we always have something called a CIDR. Okay. So we define a CIDR. I mean, we'll not go into the details of how the CIDR is defined, how the subnetworks are, or how many hosts will be present. We are not going to talk about all that. Eventually, we will talk about it. But CIDR is always in the form of IP, right? x.y.z.a / let's say 32, if you just want one IP. Okay. And just because we're talking about it, let me put it as number actually. 9.9.9.9. So the 999, it does not mean it's 9. It's not literal 9, it's number, any number. So when we talk about it as octet, right? So we have like 4 parts to it. Each one is 8 bytes long. Okay, so when you talk about it, 8 bytes of bits, I'm confused. But the way we look at it is, when you multiply it, just for simplicity, right? When you multiply it, how much do you get? 32, correct? So what it means is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of the houses are filled. So when you do something like this, what it means is you only have one host. If I do it this way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot, and I leave the 2 available for me to use, then what it will be? 8 to the 16. 16 are occupied. So it will be 9.9.9.9/16. So you have this many hosts, 2 raised to whatever that value is, right? 512 or whatever it comes out to be. That many hosts available for you. But let's not complicate it. Let's keep it simple, because this is not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is when we have VPCs, inside VPC, technically what we do is we create subnetwork. Okay. And technically a 3-tier application will create at least 3 subnetworks. One, they will call it as the public, private, and private DB. Okay. What is the difference between public subnetwork and private subnetwork? The only difference is there is this internet gateway, which lets you go and connect to internet, is only attached to a public subnetwork. So if you go check the route table, so there's this route table in your VPC section, you would see that any subnetwork right now, if you see, all of your subnetworks will be attached to internet gateway. Okay, there'll be a route table entry for it. So that means all of your subnetworks by default in a default VPC are publicly accessible. They're all public subnetwork. If you want to have a private subnetwork, you have to create a private subnetwork, but do not add an entry in the route table to your internet gateway. Then it becomes private. What does private means? Private means nobody from internet is able to access anything that you host into your private subnetwork. The only way that they can do it is if they come into your public subnetwork, you can have a rule, the security group, to access this private. So if you do something like this, that's what we call this as jump server or bastion server. Make sense so far? Okay.
Yeah, clear.
Let's talk about the instance, the reason that I was talking about with Rumana. So you have a VPC, and I think you have 6 subnetworks, if I'm not wrong, 6 or 5, whatever that is. Okay. What you could do is you could select any number of subnetworks. The reason is each subnetwork is in an availability zone. Each one is in a different availability zone. Okay. The beauty of that is if this availability zone goes down for whatever reason, you have another availability zone where your application could run. So when you scale up and create multiple, and you have defined more than one availability zone, there'll be one instance which will get created over here, other one get created over here. in your case, Romana, when the worker gets created, if there are 3 workers get created, and if you've given 3 subnetworks, they will get distributed across availability zone. That means if this goes down, you still have 2 instances that are running in a different availability zone. If you just define 1, what it means is all of your 3 will go and sit over here. If this goes down, all of your 3 instances go down. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I will stop sharing now. I'll let you share. But that's what it means. So you could actually give more than, you can just copy all of the subnetworks that you have and you can put it there if you want to.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, you don't have to do it, but you have to understand why you need to do it sometimes.
Yep. Got it. Thank you, Samir.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. You want to share your screen, or did you already share? Okay.
Okay. So here I give the tag, which is nothing fancy there, right? And here I'm saying how many slaves, how many worker nodes you want, right? Cap is the limit. Cap is the place where I define the limit. I'm saying I want up to 2, right? 2 is the limit for the worker node. You can scale up to larger number, and minimum number of instances, of course, 1. And spare instance is something which says key they'll be there readily available, so that if there are more bills coming in, more load coming in, they can take up the load. And then I say, this is where I want to do. There's still a little more I want to play around with different options, but I haven't tried that. I want to uncheck this associate public IP, because accessing worker node is via master node, right?
Correct.
Through
So
private
you don't need
IP.
Public IP technically.
I don't.
But then you'll not be able to do it. The reason is you do not have any private subnetworks.
I see.
In your world, right? If you go to AWS, since you're using a default VPC and we have not done any work on creating our own VPCs, which we will do eventually. The idea is we will do it. But at the moment, if you see all of your subnets are in our public subnetwork. So I'm not saying you cannot uncheck it. You can uncheck it. Okay. So even if you are putting it in the public subnetwork, you have an option to say do not assign a public IP. Okay. So they will still sit in a public subnetwork, but it will not assign a public IP. Did you get into some error if you uncheck it?
I wanted to try, but didn't get time, Samir.
Okay, you can do it later. I don't see you'll get into any trouble because.
Yeah, I saw in some video, if we uncheck it, it will not work. It says like that.
I don't see a reason.
We have to check, they said.
Well, I mean, it depends on the connection strategy, right? She's using a private IP. So if you select a public IP in that connection strategy, then it makes sense. Then it will not work.
Yeah, while using private IP also. I don't
Private
know.
IP,
I'm not sure, but
it should
somewhere
work.
it said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it should work. Theoretically, at least it should work.
Okay, I'll try that and let you know how it goes. Then we have to select host key verification strategy, which again something that I have to understand clearly. But for now, I selected whatever work, which is accept new, which is accept the key on first connection and store it for the subsequent connections. Right. Yeah, that's pretty much I did. And I changed the spare instance just for the demo. So I'm going to apply and save. If you go back, manage cloud.
Before you go anywhere, right? I want you to go back to manage Jenkins. Not there.
Manage Jenkins. Okay. Okay.
And then click on that configuration as code.
Yeah, I saved that file somewhere.
View configuration.
Yeah, it comes in. So that is where I wanted to say that instead of doing, if we are using Amazon EC2 plugin, instead of doing through Terraform, we can save this file. We were talking about JCask, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to. The only thing is there's one catch. I don't know whether you've noticed it or not. All these details that you entered, right? The subnetwork ID, so on and so forth. If we are creating subnetwork, if we're creating security group, all of that dynamically as part of our Terraform script, we'll have to make sure that all of these entries are being picked up from an environment variable. And as part of commissioning the environment, we'll have to set up those environment variables. Because only during commissioning, you would know what is the security group ID. Right now, what you're doing is you're copying pasting what is already created. But what if it's being created for the first time as part of commissioning? Are you understanding what I'm saying, or am I a bouncer?
Yes, I'm understanding.
Yes, Samir. Yeah.
Yeah. So always, I mean, I'm more than teaching you technology, right? I'm trying to put that thought process in you. You have to think of, oh, what could go wrong? This could go wrong. If this does not work, then what? If that does not work, then what? Right? So your mind should be able to run fast and think about what are the multiple options that you have. So I'm trying to tell you, Google is your friend, but don't think everything that is there in Google is going to solve all your problems. So you have to think from a perspective, even if this solution works, what is a better solution than this? Only then you'll be able to get to that refined holy grail. I hope this is not just philosophical talk, right? I really mean it.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I Googled for that error that I sent you, right, about the fingerprint.
Yes.
I couldn't find any help from Google. But yeah, when I just paused for a moment and I thought of the concepts that you taught us about public and private key, how public key should be there in the instance that you would be SSH into.
Yes.
So that's where things got clear and I was able to move forward.
Awesome. I would suggest one more thing to all four of you. Okay. Go to Stack Overflow for a second, Roman. Over there only you can open up a new tab and go to Stack Overflow. Open a new tab in the browser. Romana, you can click on the plus sign on top.
What is that, Samir? Sorry, I got distracted. My son is shouting. Stack Overflow.
Yeah, Stack Overflow. Go there. And then sign up over here when you get time. Not now, later. So all four of you sign up. What I want you to do is not just ask questions in Stack Overflow. Get into the habit of asking questions. If you do not find a solution to your problem after you search around, ask questions. Okay. And after you ask questions, if you're able to resolve it yourself, answer your questions, because someday down the line, you would get into that same trouble. And then if it's all there in Stack Overflow, you would have a better place to go to. That's the first benefit. The second benefit is when a recruiter is actually hiring you, he looks at your contribution to GitHub. So public repositories definitely should be there. You should have your own public repositories where you put in all your work. So he will go to your GitHub and check what work you're doing. And this is very important. Okay, I hope everybody is paying attention over here. Saujanya, Jyoti, and Mansa, and Romana. Is everybody, do I have your unbiased attention right now?
Yes, Samir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to have your own GitHub account, which all of you have. While we are working on this and while you're working on your assignments, create these projects, even if it's a write-up, even if it's not code, it's a write-up, have public repositories in GitHub. Okay, all of the learnings that you've done, if you want to capture it, the screenshots, there is this nice screen capture tool that I use, which is like $60 or something, called Snagit. Have you looked at it? Like, have you looked when I use it?
Yes, I mean, yeah.
You've looked at it?
No.
Okay, can you stop sharing your screen for a second, Romana? So if I'm here, let's say, for example, and I want to capture screen. So you see, I just clicked on print screen, and now I'm able to capture whatever I want to capture. Say I just want to capture this. I'm able to capture it, but capturing is not the only thing, right? You can do it even in a snipping tool. So how is this better? This is called Snagit. So what I can do now is to make life easy for everybody who's reading this, I can annotate it. I do this, and then if I want to put numbers, I'll put 1, 2, 3. And then if I want to blur out something which is not of big attention, I can blur that out. If I want to highlight something, put that, whatever color you want, select it. Right. So what it allows me to do is, without doing a lot of write-up, it gives me instructions. It gives me a way to write instructions very efficiently, which people will be able to see and just follow quickly. Okay. So this is a very good tool. If you think you're going to use it for, especially when I'm asking you to go to GitHub public and start documenting your work, or go to Stack Overflow and answer questions or ask questions using annotation, this might help. And when people see that you're doing it this way, people will have more interest for you, and they would understand that, you know what, this person understands what they want to do, and they have a very, very good communication skills. Okay, so 2 things I'll ask you. One is GitHub account, which you all have. Start making public repositories with all the assignments that I'm asking you to do. Start documenting it. And if you come across any questions, any problems that you do not understand, get into the habit of asking questions on Stack Overflow. The only way you can do it is by signing up in Stack Overflow. Okay, so please do these 2 things. If you are able to do it, it will definitely help you in the long run. So I'll stop sharing, Romana. Please continue.
So that's all about the configuration, right? So I already have an agent here, or rather the worker node which got created. Let me delete it so that I can show you. So right now, all I have is just the built-in node, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Master node or built-in node.
Yeah.
And if I go ahead and run a job, this built-in node might pick up the job, and we may not have additional worker nodes coming in. So what I will do, I'll set the executor to 0, which means even my built-in node is not available to pick up any builds, right?
Yeah, and by the way, this is a best practice, okay? Your master node, you should always set the executor to 0.
Right. So all these are just dummy, nothing but LSLRT and echo. I have created some sample 5 jobs. What I will do is, this is just to simulate I'll just create 3-4 windows, multiple users doing the build simultaneously. Okay, and here I will have my, so
nice.
Okay, what I'll do, I'll just make sure that agent is node is deleted. It's deleted, right?
Can you do one thing before this ends? Can you just start some more builds?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Do you have to manually delete that?
No, I wanted to delete it so that when I run the job, it'll automatically scale up. I mean, I wanted to start from 0 and run a build, and it'll see that there's nothing available, and it should scale up to how many number of jobs that it has to run, right? So each job, if you remember the configuration for the worker node, to
execute as 2. Yeah. So if you have 3, it will create two instances, is what you're trying to say, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I
believe
you. I believe you. That will work. Yeah. Let this get finished. Actually, you don't want to kill it while a job is running, or go and stop the job. See if the job is stopped.
I never executed. I just kept it ready so that I can.
Really? Then
I never ran the job.
What is it trying to do? There's some job running. You see on the left-hand side. No, stop it, Romana, there, and look at the left-hand side, the blinking icon there. So there's
it's just launching that worker, not job running.
Yeah, so you'll have to wait for it to complete, right? With all the
I was able to terminate it many times. While it was launching, I could
Okay, click on that.
disconnected.
Click on that left thing, and then yeah,
Okay,
try that.
let me refresh.
Refresh status. Yeah, there you go.
Refresh. So I have 4 screens here so that I can. So first, let me start with 2 jobs so that it get picked up by just one worker node. All I want to say is just one worker node to start off with.
Okay.
Right. Build now, and then I'll go to second one. I'll say build now, and now I'll go to this screen. So as you see, it's launching. If I go to logs, I should technically see 2 here, 2 in the queue.
Did they get over? Did they get executed already? Or?
No, because the node itself is not provisioned yet, right? So it should queue up here.
Okay.
I would normally see 2 queued up until it's the worker node is provisioned.
Yeah, go to the jobs that you've started. Looks like it already finished. Is this the one or the next one?
Not yet. Must be my old history. It is waiting for the execute.
Yeah, so go to the other one and show me the pending ones.
It takes time, Samir.
Well, the question is, did you start with the tab 2, or I thought you started with tab 3 and tab 4, Romana? I didn't even see you do it for tab 2. Can you go to tab 4, please?
Tab 2?
Tab 4. Tab 4.
Tab 4. Okay, 4.
Yeah, and then refresh it over here. Okay, you didn't do anything here.
I thought tab 1 and tab 2, I executed 2 jobs. Sorry, tab 2 and 3. I did 2 jobs.
Just refresh one of those tabs, tab 2. I don't see it here. Maybe click on build now again. Oh, there you go.
So as you see, agent is successfully connected and online, right? So if I check the build history for this one, if I have really clicked on 2 job build, right, Samir, I would see in the build history 2 jobs. I've tested all of these scenarios. I don't know, maybe this is coming in my way. This Zoom thing is coming in my way. I don't know whether I clicked 1 job or 2 jobs.
Just click again, right? What's the big deal? Just click on build now again.
Okay.
And refresh your screen. It is finishing up pretty quick, looks like.
Yeah, it's all it has this ls-minus LRT, right?
You want to potentially put a sleep, Romana. Sleep for 1 minute or 30 seconds.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So basically what I wanted to tell you is after it, how do I drag this out of my way?
There are 3 dots there. If you click on the 3 dots at the extreme right, there's an option to hide the floating.
Okay, cool. Better. I go here, if I see build history. They have, it has executed 2, right? 31 seconds recently. Demo 1 and demo, which is what I clicked. So it has 2 executors and it picked up both the jobs. But if I run 4 jobs in parallel, and if I have a spare instance in my configuration, what it will do, it'll have 1 more already ready waiting for me to pick up the load beyond 2 jobs, because my executors are 2, right? So if you want, I can demo that, or I can stop it here and show you the worker instance, log into the worker instance and see that remoting jar and workspace.
No, I think we are good because we see that the node is coming up, right? So I definitely can figure out there's a remoting jar. So this is good.
Yeah.
This is really good effort.
And after 2 minutes of idle time, since I'm no more
I want to see that.
Yes. Did I close it? It's here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Good job,
Document
Romana.
this, put it up on your GitHub with all these screenshots, details if you can, you know,
Sure.
and start getting active on Stack Overflow. You know, open up your account, and then if you have any trouble, first of all, Google around in Stack Overflow. Well, search around in Stack Overflow. If you're not able to still get the answer, just try to ask question, because there are a lot of people who will reply to your question. But when you ask question, always make sure your questions are well formatted and well asked. I don't know what to call that, but make sure that it's easy for people to understand. Like if you can give some sample code, or this is how I did it, this is everything that I tried. Basically, the intent is not that you ask questions and get answers, great. But in general, when people start looking at your profile and see that you've been very active with Stack Overflow, eventually I would want you to go in and even answer questions what people ask. Okay, so that gives you a lot of visibility. Okay, these are some secret sauces. Also on LinkedIn, please open up a LinkedIn account if you do not have it. Saujanya, do you have a LinkedIn account?
No, Samir.
Please open up a LinkedIn account. So there are 3 tasks for you. One is GitHub, which I've told you already, you have an account. The second one is Stack Overflow, sign up. And the third one is LinkedIn, sign up.
Okay.
Okay, and add Anji as a friend in the LinkedIn list. And you can add me also.
Sure.
Okay, so you want to be a little active in that area, because these are all areas that people, when they want to potentially hire you, they're going to look around and see what is your contribution, what do you think, what is your thought process.
Okay.
Right, and Romana, Jyoti is not here, but that's the message to you all. Okay.
Saujanya, you want to show how you did through ASG, auto scaling group?
Actually, I deleted Romana. Sorry. That's very easy. I think if you figure it out this, you definitely will figure it out that
Yeah,
too.
it is very easy.
Very
the
easy.
thing
We
is,
just have to click
yeah,
the options. That's it.
you just have to have the AMI. You can actually create your golden
Yeah,
AMI
we
with
have to.
all of the things that you want created, right? So you just need a template, and when you go to auto scaling group, it'll ask you to select the template, and then you can define how you want it to auto scale it. Do you want it to so minimum and maximum, exactly same way as what you showed in the plugin, right?
Yeah,
Most similar to
yeah,
that.
we have options to scale up and scale down. So.
Correct. And then you can say you want to scale up on CPU spike, you want to scale up on memory, you want to scale up for traffic that is coming in. So you have all sort of that option. So you'll be able to figure it out if you get in. Just start reading about AWS auto scaling group.
Yeah, if you read the auto scaling, yeah, it's easy to.
Is there a preference, Samir?
If we are on AWS, I would prefer to have auto scaling group, but the only down part of auto scaling group will be you'll have to have at least one instance running forever. You're not going to, in your world, what is happening is you can go down to 0. Right, and then create it, and you have already created all the handshake between those systems. Right, not that in an auto scaling group you'll not have a handshake. The reason is your AMI itself will have a private key or whatever setup. So I'm thinking auto scaling group might be a great way to go if we are going with pure Terraform, because then I don't have to worry about all these environment variables and all that, right, Romana? If I'm able to set up auto scaling group in Terraform, everything else, the AMI, the keys, how it's baked in, everything will be, I will not have to worry about. So there's no single, if you ask me which one is better, there's no single winner.
Okay.
Only when we get to defining all of this, because you remember the whole intent, the nirvana state that I'm talking about, right? Is you should be able to just destroy everything and recreate everything from scratch and show me that it's working without touching, without clicking too many things on your mouse and typing too many things on the keyboard.
Right.
That's the nirvana state. So whichever can achieve it, great. I mean, and if you have, as I said earlier, if you have more than one solution, it becomes a lot easier for you to pick up the best one. What works the best for you?
Right.
Yeah. So I think good job, both of you.
Thank you.
Good job, Ramana.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good
I think
job.
I think you don't need any more sessions. I think you guys are ready.
Not really, sorry. No.
No,
He's
Samir.
becoming an expert.
Actually, there is another way also, Kubernetes cluster something.
Yes, yes. So Kubernetes cluster is for sure there. That's what we are going to look at. So there's this Kubernetes Jenkins plugin which is available. So we could create, as soon as we go to Kubernetes, we can explore that option.
Yeah, I went through that also, but of course that's too difficult for me. I did.
Well, it's not difficult. The only thing is we haven't learned Kubernetes yet. That's why it's difficult, right? So what do you think? Are we going to be able to wrap up all these classes sooner, or do you really want to continue for some more time? You guys are ready. I think that's how I look at it. No?
Continue,
What is-
Samir.
what is
I
pending,
don't know.
Okay, I'll stop recording. Okay, because let the recording